Hello, welcome back to the Going Zero Waste YouTube channel. I'm Kathryn Kellogg. We have recently had our first tragedy on set, which I will let play right now. Oh no! Oh no! I broke you! Oh no! I'm so sorry. Oh no! Oh
three.
no! No! I'm so sorry. Really hard work you're filming. It's been a really hard day, but we've come here for one reason, and that is to dish on the trash jar. If you are new to the zero waste lifestyle, then you might know of something called, or you may not know of something called the trash jar. The trash jar is a pretty iconic symbol of the zero waste movement where people collect their trash and store it in a mason jar for 1, 2, 3, etc. years. And when I first went zero waste, I really wanted to have a fun challenge to see how little waste I could produce. So I participated in having a trash jar where I reduced, reused, and recycled everything I could, and what I could not was left in the trash jar. And I will open it up, but I don't know if you can see it, but here, this was a credit card that expired, and I actually punched guitar picks out of it before I put it in the trash jar because I was trying to reduce, reuse, and recycle everything I could. So I did this for 2 years. This was 2 years worth of trash. And there were several things I left out, which I always wrote about on my blog post when I did a check-in, which was dog poop and broken glass. So dog poop is not accepted in most commercial composting facilities. Was I going to store that in my trash jar? No, because that's disgusting. Ugh. Also, glass, broken glass. Broken glass is not normally recyclable in a curbside bin. You can take it to a transfer station typically because those things aren't hand sorted. But it does become an issue because a lot of material recycling facilities do hand sort. So if there's broken glass or something sharp that can cut the people that are sorting, you really don't want to put it in there. So if you have broken glass, it does belong in the landfill. It does not belong in your recycling bin. Of course, always make sure that you check with your local recycling facility because what is true of most is not true of all, and so they might accept it. Maybe they don't have hand sorters. I don't know. So definitely make sure that you check with your own local recycling facility. Yeah, dog poop, not accepted in commercial composting facilities unless it is a specific dog poop composting program. They have an amazing one in the UK somewhere. It's a dog park where they take the dog poop and they use it to power the lights in the dog park. Awesome. I know of one in Boulder, Colorado, and that's it. Those are the ones I know of. So I do have a whole post called Zero Waste Dog, which you can check out if you're interested in how to be lower waste with your pet. So back to the trash jar. I'm going to go over what was the trash I produced in those 2 years, and then of course why I like the trash jar and why I don't like the trash jar. So let's get into it. Trash jar. Okay. This is kind of like one of those things like the snakes that like pop out of the jar. It's like all my trash like slowly expands. So what you'll find in here is a lot of wrappers. A lot of wrappers. Ah! So many wrappers. And every time I do this, I do tend to lose like 1 or 2 pieces because some of them are really small. So, wrappers. Wrappers, twist ties, like I said, my old credit card. And when I started going zero waste, I bought all of my mason jars at the thrift store. So I have a ton of stickers from the thrift store. I also have clothing tags from stores that I've thrifted. I have like piece of a swizzle stick from like a cocktail I got, a straw from a cocktail I got, and yeah, several, I don't even know what this is or where this came from. I have no idea. Yeah, it's pretty much all stuff that wasn't easily avoidable. I started shopping at the farmer's market where I could get all of my stuff without twist ties and produce stickers and things like that. but I didn't always make it to the farmer's market. So sometimes I wound up with things like this broccoli tag. So after doing this for 2 years, I didn't really see the point in continuing because I just kept collecting the exact same stuff over and over and over again. And I did it kind of as an educational tool for myself. I used it as accountability. I enjoyed doing it as an experiment, but after doing it for 2 years, it just didn't seem valuable to me anymore. I like the trash jar because I think that it can be inspirational. I think it can be pretty cool to like hold something up and be like, hey, look, like this is my trash, and it can be inspiring. But I also think on the flip side, it can also be really divisive because most people are like, well, there's no way you did that. And I've even admitted it wasn't, this isn't a whole picture, right? There are things I left out, which I talked about. And I always talk about the things I left out, but I think it can be, you know, I could also order a zero waste box from TerraCycle and I could put all of this in there and then send it back to them and let them handle it. And it could be like, oh, well, I produced no trash, right? I mean, so it's also, it can easily be manipulated. And I just think that sometimes people, when they do it, might not always be honest, which I think can give a false picture. And I think it can lead to a lot of people being upset when they fall short of this very difficult ideal to achieve. And I live in Northern California, right? I live in the Bay Area. I live near San Francisco. And I have access to some of the greatest bulk stores. Yeah, I mean, like, I'm gonna guess Rainbow Grocery is probably like the best bulk store, one of the best bulk stores in the world. It's amazing. They have things like miso and kimchi in bulk, which is insane. And like, it's such a privilege to live here. And this is all because of the access that I have to a conducive zero waste environment. And I don't think it's fair that someone maybe in Arkansas, I'm from Arkansas, you know, who doesn't have access to this kind of thing would be upset or hold themselves to what is pretty much an impossible ideal for them. So that's one of the reasons why I'm not a fan, and one of the reasons why I stopped the experiment. Because there is like so much out of our control, and trash at the end of the day is like an iceberg. 70% of the waste made in the production of an item is lost during the manufacturing process. So just because I bought something from the bulk bin doesn't mean and just because I don't see the trash doesn't mean the trash didn't happen. Like, and also I try to explain this to people, food doesn't just appear in bulk bins, right? It had to get to the store somehow. So it also came in a package. I'm just not seeing the package. So just because this is the trash that I created for a very, 2 years doesn't mean there wasn't a lot of trash that was associated with me in consuming. You know, and this goes back to our video, which I talked about, you know, what is zero waste? It's impossible to be completely zero waste because we just don't live in a society that's built that way. We don't have programs and incentives and ways for people to be able to reclaim what they put out in the world. So, you know, it would be awesome if every piece of food delivered to the bulk bins was delivered on a giant stainless steel tankard, and then they put it all in there, and then once the tankard was empty, they sent the tankard back, the company refilled it, and it was something that we could keep doing over and over and over again. But that's not the way that it's set up, you know? And I just think it's kind of silly that a lot of people hold themselves to this trash jar ideal. They burn themselves out. They think they're doing too much, and they just give up completely. And so I want to make sure that people feel like they can do something, and then that's good. Like, it's okay if your trash doesn't fit in a jar. It doesn't have to for you to be zero waste. I think just making a few simple changes, figuring out what works with your lifestyle, and then just doing that committedly over and over and over again is one of the best things you can do. So this is kind of my PSA on you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be perfect to make a difference. I think it's just really important, and I think it's just really awesome just that you're trying. A few other reasons why I don't particularly like the trash jar is it doesn't account for the waste upstream, which we talked about. A lot of these things are out of your control. You know, what's happening in the waste upstream, what's happening in the manufacturing process. Of course, you can ask for no straw, but it doesn't mean that you're not gonna get a straw. And also, like, I tried to collect my straws I got out at restaurants, but sometimes I just didn't have a way to carry a straw home with me, so I was like going somewhere else, you know. And so can be kind of selective, because even though I might have had a few more straws, they didn't actually make it in the trash jar because maybe my drink was picked up before I could take the straw out, just things happen, and life isn't going to go your way 100% of the time. And that's really unrealistic to think that it would. So I think it's another reason why it's also really important that we focus on changing the system rather than just our singular behavior habits. And then the last thing is, I sometimes think that the trash jar rewards bad behavior because I was collecting jars, and I had roommates, and so I would ask them for their pasta jars and I'd remove the labels. And this was before I truly started the experiment. But once I got into the experiment of collecting my trash, I was removing labels, but then I was left with a sticker. And I was like, oh, well, if I just recycle this jar instead of removing the label off the jar, then I won't have any trash because I can recycle it. And that is not good, because it's much better to reuse what we have than to recycle. But I was doing it because I thought maybe, actually I have my labels in here, but it was kind of a real disconnect for me, because I was like, this kind of is encouraging a bad habit. So once again, I think it's really important that you don't get super caught up in the whole trash jar. I think it's a great experiment if you want to run it. Obviously, I still have mine. I think it's a really cool piece. I think it's a cool testament to what I did and what I tried. I think it's a nice kind of piece of art that I have in my home currently. I don't plan on getting rid of it. I plan on keeping it, but I also don't plan on continuing the experiment at this time. So I would love to know your thoughts on the trash jar, what you think about it. You can let me know in the comments section down below. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and press that big red subscribe button to be notified when new videos are coming out, and I will see you next week with a new video.